A little crooked? That's okay. We can deal with that. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to be talking about somatypes. And you might not know the word somatypes, but I bet you've heard of them before. Somatypes are essentially different body types. So, ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph. You've probably heard of these body types before. Maybe you've even considered categorizing yourself as one of them. But today we're going to talk about how that whole idea is BS and built on BS. And we'll get into why in a minute. But even though I believe that the terminology and how it came to be is absolutely shocking, you will still probably know what the body types are. So ectomorphs tend to be tall, skinny, kind of lanky. They have a hard time putting on weight. Skinny people, basically. Mesomorphs are people who basically can gain weight or lose weight pretty easily. They kind of have a middle of the road body type. Maybe they carry some muscle, but they don't carry too much fat. And then there's endomorphs, who are people who tend to be heavier. They have a harder time losing weight. They put on weight very easily. And a lot of times in today's day and age, you will still see these body types pushed as a way to decide what type of diet you should be doing. Oh, am I an ectomorph? Then I should be doing this diet. Am I an endomorph? Then I should be doing this diet. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But first, I want to talk a little bit about who came up with these, where did they come from, why did they exist? Back in the 1940s, a series of schools, about 20 different Ivy League schools, including Harvard, Princeton, and many others, they would photograph incoming students as part of this large study to study scoliosis, rickets, posture. So they would take these nude photos of the students as they entered the school, I assume to gauge how their posture changed over the 4 years that they were there. And of the two people that were running this, one of them was psychologist Dr. William Sheldon. So years after this posture study had been concluded, Dr. William Sheldon, psychologist William Sheldon, I think is really important to point out here. He used these photos without permission to basically determine body types, to decide, to basically come to the conclusion that people fall into these categories of specific body types. And you might be like, well, aside from stealing nude photos, which is incredibly wrong, that seems pretty harmless, right? No, he wasn't determining body types to figure out how people needed to diet to change their body type the way people still talk about it in 2020. He was doing it as kind of a eugenics study. He was trying to determine the moral and mental characteristics of people based on their body types. So I'll say that again. Ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, these were actually terms come up with to help predict someone's character traits. So what? Like, the fact that that's how this all started and it's still something that's used today is kind of just mind-blowing to me. You know, and I don't know what they were trying to get at here. You know, because it was based on a foundation of like studying eugenics, I assume they were trying to find out which was the superior body type in terms of what, I don't know. But often eugenics was used to make certain people superior or inferior to other people. So what were the characteristics that they thought that these people had? So ectomorphs, the tall, skinny people, tended to be intelligent, gentle, self-conscious, and anxious. The mesomorphs, the kind of middle of the road, more muscle, you know, the dream body type, right? They can gain weight or lose weight whenever they want. They hold muscle, but not too much fat. They were viewed as confident, extroverted, competitive, and tough. And endomorphs were viewed as outgoing, friendly, jolly, but also lazy and selfish, you know, the heavier folks. So if that's not like one of the craziest things you've ever heard, I don't know what to say. They actually used some of this in a book that I can't remember the name of the book, but I'll put it up on the screen here, to determine that mesomorphs tended towards criminality. A high number of criminals were mesomorphs. So again, what the heck were they doing with this study? And more, we can look back at science back in these days and see a lot of things that were incredibly unethical. So the question is, why are we still using these terms today? That's what I want to know. Because they're buzzwords. Now, I've used these terms because people know what they mean. If someone comes to me and says, I'm an ectomorph, I'm not going to be like, well, that's kind of rooted in some quackery. I know what they mean. They mean that they're thin and they have a hard time gaining weight. If someone tells me they're an endomorph, I know what they mean. So I think we need to come up with new terms for these things just because they're rooted in such a dark history. But what does it really mean to have a body type? Well, we don't know for certain, but I think although Dr. William Sheldon was looking for mental and temperamental characteristics of people based on their body types, I do think that there is likely more of like lifestyle patterns with certain body types that could possibly link them together. And sometimes maybe even some like physical things that link them together. For example, people who tend to be on the thinner side, they might just have less of an appetite than somebody who has a harder time losing weight. They may just be more sensitive to hunger and things like that. So I do think that there's some merit in understanding the way your body tends to respond, but to just say, I'm an ectomorph, I'm a mesomorph, I'm an endomorph. I understand that most people are saying this with good intentions, but it's really misleading. And what's more misleading, and this is my real gripe, because I don't think anybody who says, I'm an ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, I don't think anybody has any ill intentions there. I find that a lot of coaches or companies will market their diets or their coaching or give tips based on whether you're an ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph, which again, isn't a real thing. Like, how could you know that based on one snapshot of somebody, first of all? If you took a snapshot of me 20 years ago, I would have been classified as an endomorph like that. Today, if you took a picture of me, someone might say, oh, well, that's a mesomorph. And if you took a picture of me on show day, somebody might say, that's an ectomorph. So the idea that you can classify somebody's body type based on one picture on one day is bogus, of course. But then to tell somebody that they need to diet a specific way based on their body type is ridiculous. The basis of whether you gain weight or lose weight is the same for everybody ever. Ever. Anybody who has gained weight has eaten in a caloric surplus of what they have burned. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. There's genetic factors that go into that. There's lifestyle factors. There can be medication factors that go into that. But all of those things could be slowing down your metabolism and what you burn. So even if you didn't eat a lot, it could still be in excess of what you burned. So you were eating in a caloric surplus, even if you weren't eating a lot. So anybody who gained weight ate in a caloric surplus. Anybody who lost weight ate in a caloric deficit. And that's it. You can play with the various macros and strength training and lifestyle to determine how much muscle somebody gains or how much fat somebody loses and muscle they maintain. But the principles of physique change are the same for everybody across the board, no matter what your body type is. So I hope this was an interesting discussion for you guys. I think that it's super, super interesting, and let me know what you think. I mean, do you classify yourself as one of these three? Do you say something like, I'm a hard gainer, or I have a harder time losing weight? Personally, I just say that, I tend to store fat more easily than some of my athletic friends around me. Many of my friends have been athletes their whole life. I think that changes the way your body responds versus somebody like myself who was obese for the first almost 20 years of my life. Our bodies are going to respond differently to the same stimulus. So certainly people can be different. I'm not saying everybody is the same no matter what, but I'm saying the principles of physique change stay the same for everybody no matter what. So very curious to hear what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if there's anything you want to hear about in the future. Hit the like and subscribe, hit the bell, share it if you think it's interesting. I don't even know what that bell does, but they say I'm supposed to tell you to hit it. So anyway, hope you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.